place for people to go and shoot, safe place for people to shoot. So.
Thank you. Just looking down the list here.
Great, that's awesome. And the Wildlife Conservation Foundation said that they were in for at least 50,000. And Kevin, he's done a great job. He's been assisting us through the whole process, and he has a lot of. I can hear myself echoing over there. But he has a lot of contacts too, people that are very interested in the project that would potentially donate like kind, the dirt work and construction type work for the project. And so this is just a start, but it's something that we had to put together. We have 2 weeks to get that grant application in, and so we're crunch time right now. But one of the final things is again having this public hearing and seeing how the public feels about it. We know there are a lot of people. We know that there may be some that are concerned, and we want to address those tonight. And so, but all in all, I think it'll be a really good project, and it's something that the members of our community will be fan of. So.
I think that's probably all. I'll try to answer any questions if they're kind of related to this as needed, but thank you.
Well, first of all, before we move into a public hearing, are there any questions, comments from the council on what's been presented? The question was, have we identified any of the operating or maintenance costs, yearly costs?
No, that's kind of still on the to-do list, but I know, the discussion has been constructing things that are going to last with the elements and things, using some of the, pipe that we have readily available here. Some drilled tubing, I'm sure, will be plentiful. Not plentiful, but there will be things like that will be utilized to set that up. I know there's been some discussion about some of the trap and skeet shooting equipment, for example. Like some of the ranges will have concrete bunkers that are pretty solid in terms of being able to house that and keep it secure so it doesn't walk away. These $13,000 throwers, things like that have been discussed too. There's been some that are actually, I think we have at least, I know we talked about one that a gentleman that had some that could donate towards the cause, and something like that you'd want to make sure we have secure. And there's other things that you could, archery range that was discussed too, but there is a lot of upkeep with some of the things like that. So it could be something that we just have it available and they need to bring their own throwers and set them up, or we potentially talked about having something that could be locked up that they could reserve or, register to have an opportunity to use that, and you can keep it under lock and key and still allow the public to utilize some of that equipment.
Like Eric said, the materials, we went and looked at a few different gun ranges and they were using like wood pillars and things like that. We thought that was a terrible idea. Well, I shouldn't say terrible idea. We didn't think that was a great idea because of the O&M. So the materials that we were wanting to use are like tin roofs, those types of things that last a long time. There's little O&M on. We figured that one of the main O&M issues or things that would come up is weed control every year with Dr. Troy Cooper with USU. He seems to think that we can make that minimal expense, especially going initially with some pretty heavy weed killer that we put throughout in the last several years. And they're like around more or less for several years at a time. So there's ways that we can reduce the O&M on that. That's really what we want to do. There's also the DWR has dedicated hunters that they can send to do service projects and things like that. I don't know how the scouting is in our area anymore, but I'm sure scout projects and other interested parties, I'm sure, will come together and help participate in that. So, but it is definitely something that we want to identify. Looking at Buckskin Hills and talking with them, honestly, they're made maintenance things or just cleaning up and weed control. It's the dumpsters out there. Another thing that we will have, and tonight I'm going to go to Valley City to confirm this, but they've committed to have an officer go out once a day in the morning time, and then we'll have an officer go out maybe in the evening or afternoon and just check on everything as well. So, if anything shows up out there, they shouldn't trash or whatever, we can look at the cameras immediately. So we'll have pretty good surveillance out there as well. So we'll put that maintenance cost for us to the service. It's probably a 30-minute trip, well, everything's to go back. So that's the expense to the city. That's probably not going to be obvious, but just to be honest about it. Right. Yep. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and open up to the public and consider ourselves in public hearing. Any of those that would like to, let's try to keep it organized. So any of those that would like to voice their support for the project, we'll have them go first. And if you could, just come to the pulpit and state your name for the record. And then whatever you'd like to comment, if you would. And then once everybody has finished who may be in favor, we'll let those that are maybe not in favor, have questions or concerns about it, go next. So, are there any here that would like to take an opportunity to ask a question, voice their support?
In favor of it? I'll get up and speak about it. Because we speedy hearing. Big thing speedy. I shoot out there a lot. The garbage to clean up probably 2 weeks. I mean, people go out there and dump their trash. There's one spot, me and that guy the day go over there and shoot, and we pick up everybody's trash, throw it back, or pick up the next home. That's where we shoot at. But there is a lot of bicyclers that go across the ridge. They go across the ridge that where you got to be taking your road. You have your long distance training, you have shotgun, you have your pistols. Police officers, I don't agree with. The people out there using that should have to come into the Roosevelt City Police Office and say, hey, I just found a mattress out of the shooting range. Pull it up on your cameras. The people of Roosevelt ought to be able to help keep it clean. That would be my main concern. Just picking up everybody's trash. I guess, there's a lot of people that use it, not just for shooting. That's my concern. A lot of people go out there on their ATVs and ride it. And actually pick and choose where you put your backstops, what you use for your backstops. Because there is a lot of people that use that country more than what you really think. I don't go out there much in the summertime. I do a lot to fire, just because of the fire.
Thank you. And appreciate that comment. We have talked to several bikers and people that bike out there, and we've tried to orient that to where it's not going to impact them as much. Hopefully, it doesn't impact the road. And the max toxic part of the grant is, and I think we mentioned this as a media study as well. And so we'll have a study then, and it'll be built to NRA specs, and we'll make sure that it's going to be done correctly, and all of those things will be taken into consideration. So, yeah, yes.
Has anybody come down to the one in Price?
Yes.
They supposedly have a beautiful one right now.
Yeah, we might look at that one, this one's patterned similar to that. And interestingly enough, they are long range, shoots almost directly at their pistol range. And I was very surprised, and I thought, well, if that's safe, we're really safe. So, really, thank you. Any others?
Kevin Richens. I'm with Wildlife Conservation Foundation. We're a new conservation group based here in Roosevelt. Got started up last fall and having banquets, fundraiser things, and the money that we raise in the areas that we do banquets and things that we hold, we like to support projects in that area. And one of the biggest questions that people always ask me is, where do you go shoot? So it worked great that the city was working on this project, so we had kind of picked this to be our main project that we fund this year. So most of the funds that we raised this year we're using for this project. So we're in support of it. Been working with JR quite a bit. We went to Price, looked at those. Everything's going to be to the NRA standards with the berms and all those things. So safety is going to be really good. So we're in support of it. We would also like to, as far as like the whatever you call that, your overhead, for future with that, we would hold we could do some fundraisers. So that would be something that maybe we could go out, we could do a trap shooting, we could do something. That was something that we would plan on, we could do, maybe help raise some money to cover those throughout the year. Maybe we wouldn't cover it all, but that would be something that we would pledge to do once a year. We could do a little fundraiser out there that could go toward some of those things, year after year. So anyway.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate all you've done.
I'm Andy Adamson. I'm here to represent Strata Networks, and we're excited as a member of the community. We've got almost moving in on 300 employees here and their families. We love the outdoor lifestyle. We love being out and to have the opportunity of a safe place to shoot. And for our employees and our customers and everybody else, we think that's a great thing for the community in general and for everyone to have. And so we're excited to help and to see what we can do to help and support this effort. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Are there any others with us tonight? I'd like to speak to that.
Mark Stewart, I think it's a great project because the more things you can have for people to enjoy and not have to travel for, and those kinds of things is spectacular. And there's a lot of people that go out and find private ground or go out and just shoot. And the safety aspects of this will probably make it more safe than it's ever been before. And I think it's a great project. I think it's a good thing for our community. I think it'll have potential to draw in and help the economy as well. And I'm in full support of what this project can possibly become. And my only question is I seen a 75-25 grant, and I heard 90-10. What's the difference on the 90-10 versus the 75-25 that you're looking at?
That's a good question. So there's two grant options that they have available. The 90-10 is a new grant option, and this will be the first one applied for in Utah. So they're just two different funding pools. But if we can get the 90-10 grant, and we get the requirements for that, then we only have to come up with 10% of the project costs, and we'll get 90% granted to us without repayment or anything else. And then this. If we can't get the 90-10, obviously I think we'll do 75-25, and then we have to come up with 25% of the project total costs, and again, the remaining balance would be a grant, which uh, yeah, not you don't have to repay it. So the difference would be on the 75-45 $1 million project, you know, we'd be looking at having 250,000 like to qualify for that grant in the 100,000. The good thing is we got the 90-10 and we did have more like kind come in. We could, you know, where we're talking about troubleshooting, or some of these other areas, we can improve those and make better equipment, you know, better facilities. We talked about maybe putting the bathroom down there, but we don't know if that's an issue yet. But we do want it to be somewhere we can have big events. We can have shooting events there. Public. The majority of the shooting range will be open to the public. No launch will be here and just certain understandings.
75-25 is worst case scenario. And so we earn the 250,000 to go with the 750 or whatever to get the $1 million project. Eric, is that a high or a low estimate?
Oh, he just snuck up. He's at the Valor, but
What do you know?
yeah, go ahead if you
So
will.
that's a little bit of a high estimate.
Great.
Um,
That's just where we
go
want.
that way and probably scale back a little bit.
No, let's not scale it up, down. Let's scale it up. We do it right the first time, you know. Let's figure out a plan for, if we don't get the whole thing right now, the next plan, the next plan, the next plan, so we can stage this thing into something that can be spectacular for our community. That's what I think. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Bo Hancock with Strata and also just as a citizen, but definitely in support of it. I just wanted to piggyback off of what Andy stated and also to follow up with Speedy there. One of the things that Strata is very interested in doing is implementing and installing a state-of-the-art camera system so we can keep track of, you know, who's leaving their garbage around and track them down later on. One question in regards to Mark's statement is you got 15 days on the grant. Are both those grants, the deadlines at the same time?
That's a good question. June 15th is the deadline for the grant, the 9-10, I believe.
Correct.
75-25, I was thinking maybe the 1st of July.
A little bit later.
So,
Okay. And we can still apply for both of them. If we apply for one, it doesn't preclude us from
no,
every other.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. No,
And we'll work that out. We'll have to work that out before I say no. We'll have to work that out with Anthony and make sure that that is how it works. The way I understood it is if we submit the grant, it's two different funding pools, but if we submit the grant and we don't get this one.
no, I'm in support of it. Agree with Mark. Let's build it right the first time and make it a great amenity for the citizens.
Any others like to comment? Okay, are there any? Yeah, Kevin, go ahead.
Just one more comment, just kind of a little
Doing it right the first time. We do have a lot of supporters that are members of our foundation that are willing to do dirt work and things to go along with that 25 split. So, you know, if there's 300,000 in dirt work, I mean, we may get 100 or 200 of that 1,000. We only have to buy fuel type thing. So I do have a lot of contractors that are in support of helping that I think would be able to come up with that 25 split really easy.
That's what I'm thinking too.
So anyway, just wanted to.
That'd be awesome. And what I would encourage everyone to do is whatever contacts that you have, we would like to have as many letters of support from even just the general public as well. Anybody that's interested and willing to support the project, we'd love to have those. And then if we could firm up any like-kind contributions. So if you can talk to your friends or relatives or whoever's interested in donating to the project, if we can kind of get some more firm numbers by the time we submit that application, we'll hold off for another week and a half. As long as we're meeting that deadline, maybe we can tie up some loose ends and get that information to them. Anything that we can bring together before that application is submitted is going to give us a better chance of that, of getting that. So every little bit helps, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So. Okay, we'll move real quickly. Are there any concerns or questions or maybe are not in favor of the project? Okay, seeing none. Any others who would like to make a comment in general? All right. Thank you for your comments and being here tonight. We'll go ahead and consider ourselves back into regular session. And with that, we'll move to the
I move that we move forward.
I was going to say, he said so first. You said, sure. Okay, so we'll give the motion to. Okay, so now
We're just trying to move the meeting.
and second by Councilman Supervisor. Okay, next item tonight, I'll just break this up really quickly. Should we for this, but we made a change with our city manager position not too long ago. And it was our proposal that we didn't feel like it was quite the right fit. And we owed it to our citizens and our staff to find the very best candidate in person that would possibly do our work, which is not saying. So we separated our and terminated the agreement with the previous city manager. And since then, we've been actively pursuing and trying to figure out who or how to fill that position. And we have started some communication and negotiation with Josh Bake. And as we discussed those positions and it's I think it is a good fit for AC, something it might be good for you. So he's here tonight. We've been in negotiations with him for the last month at least. And working on the details and seeing how we work and really just spending our time making sure that it's a good fit for both parties. And so he's here tonight. Josh, would you like to sign and introduce yourself and then your wife and give us a quick introduction?
We just need that.
We're currently living in Naples, Utah right now. Originally from the Wasatch Front, but don't want to go back there. Like living in the basin, you don't want to go back. We have 5 children.
Okay. We have 5 children. Our oldest just graduated a couple days ago, so that was kind of rough. And our youngest is 10. So we're really excited about the opportunity. Roosevelt is an amazing city, as you very well know. We're really excited about the opportunity to work with Mayor Bird, with the council, with the great staff here at Roosevelt. There's so many good things here, and we feel like this would be a really good fit. And we're excited to jump right in and be a part of the community. And, growing up a BYU fan and living in Uinta cheering for the Utes for a while, it'll be really nice to cheer for the Cougars again. So really excited about that. But honestly, we just want to say thank you for the opportunity. And we're really excited to get to know everybody. And like I said, jump right in.
So a little bit about Josh too. He has a law degree. He also has an MPA, master's degree, and been working for Naples Cities for 7 years now. And how long did you practice law in Wyoming again? Was it Wyoming?
Yeah, it was in Wyoming. So I started with the city up there. So practically,
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
yeah, I worked for the city of Casper.
For how long up there?
4 years.
About 4 years.
4 years. Okay. So he has a little bit of experience with municipalities, which is nice. And again, we thought it was a good opportunity for Roosevelt City as we saw that there was interest there, and we were definitely interested. So tonight we have a contract that we negotiated, and it needs to be approved by the council. But before, I would just like the council to know that this is from the mayor's standpoint, this is who I'd like to appoint to the position, and obviously the council has to ratify that decision along with approving the contract. So we have Grant with us. He's going to walk us through some of the provisions of that contract. And
I'll just hit on the highlights and then let me know if you have any questions. We can get into it in more detail. It would be without a specified term. The salary would be $120,000. He would be eligible for merit increases at you guys' discretion after that. There would be a residency requirement, and it would work like this. He would have a 6-month probation period. During the initial 6 months, he would not be required to be a resident in Roosevelt City. After the 6-month probationary period was successfully completed, he would have 12 months to either purchase property, which could be in the form of a building lot, could also be buying an existing residence if they decided that they wanted to do that. After that 12-month period in which he would be allowed or required to buy some form of real property, he would then have 36 months to begin construction if his decision was to buy a lot. And then once construction was completed, he'd have to make a good faith effort during that 36-month period to complete the project, would have to progress at a reasonable rate. And then once the home was built, he would be required in the contract to make that his primary residence. Are there any questions on the residency part? That one ended up a little more complicated than it sometimes is. Okay, then on vacation hours, he would be allowed to start with 40 hours and then would begin accruing vacation as if he had 5 years of service with the city already. And I think the accrual would start on July 1st. Okay. Then with severance, and I didn't make notes on this one, but during the 6-month probationary period, I believe that he's going to have 2 months salary severance that he would be eligible for. After the 6 months probationary period is completed, that would bump up to 6 months salary as a severance, and after he established residency here in the city, and that would be determined by when he became domiciled here. So when he moved into his primary residence, then the severance would jump up again to 9 months salary. And I think that hits the highlights on it. If you have any questions on any other provisions, I'd be happy to explain it.
Is that what you remember, first of all? Making sure nothing changed. Are there any questions from the council on that? I know in speaking with the council, there was a couple of questions on, how much vacation he would have coming in. And anyway, I think that was worked out. And I think it worked out really well.
One other thing that I skipped over and should probably point out on establishing residency, my understanding is that their intention is to build. As you're all aware, the market is not ideal for that right now. There are provisions that the council would have discretion to extend the 36-month period as long as you found that there had been a good faith effort to build a home, and it would be subject to you making findings that either cost or availability of materials or the labor was just making it cost prohibitive at this point, and then it could be extended.
So if we didn't extend it, then we could cancel the contract with him without paying severance.
Yes, there would be a breach of the contract under those circumstances, and then it would be for cause.
Okay.
And when the contract, or if there's a termination for cause, and there are other things within the contract that could be for cause as well, but if it's for cause, there would be no severance. If it's without cause, then the severance would be paid.
Perfect, thank you.
Are there any other questions by the council? Okay, seeing none, then I again submit Judge Bate to be appointed as city manager of Roosevelt City, and would entertain a motion to that effect.
I motion to accept the contract between Josh Bates, Roosevelt City.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Allen, all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Did you know Maple City?
That was my question. When this contract starts, obviously 2 weeks from now.
When, what's that? Okay, fantastic. And with that, I guess you'll affirm that with your signature on the bottom of the contract. So, when would your starting date be? That's one thing that I forgot to mention, and we'll need to have in that contract as well.
Preferably July 1st. Not even 30 days notice to get people squared away.
Excellent. I think that's more than time, so.
In the case, we have 2 copies of the contract. Just go ahead and do signatures.
I'm ready. Ryan, I'll let you leave the room until it's signed.
I was nervous when the lawyers talking so much about problems.
So I guess all of you that thought that I was vying for that position, hold that, I guess you're all disappointed tonight, so. That was my thing. Super excited. And I'd like to say this because I think it's interesting. Councilman Barrett had a conversation earlier today with an individual. And after that individual got done telling Councilman Barrett how good of an option we had for a city manager, he called me and he says, "Are you sure he's not going to get out of this?" I told him you give me your word. And believe that, so. Yes. Yes, go ahead, please.
I'd just like to once again say thank you, Mayor, Council. I appreciate it. And I would like to apologize. We will dismiss ourselves if that's okay. My wife is headed for surgery at 6:30 in the morning tomorrow. She has ankle surgery, so we're gonna, if that's okay.
Well, you signed the paper, so we're good.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Good luck.
All right, now the fun begins. Let's, at this time, we're going to go ahead and do the city council member appointments, and it'll be interviews, basically. We'll have your public meeting. How I'd like to do this, though, a couple of things that I need to mention. First of all, Ben Friday's end date will be July 1st, and so he'll continue as a councilman until that point in time. Whoever's decided on this tonight will be appointed July 6th at our July 6th meeting, so there will be, he'll finish out this month. We felt that important. He's worked very hard on, not only the interview process with the city manager, but also the financial end of things, the budget, and he knows a lot that's going on and has had a lot of input. So I felt that only fair to have him finish that up and then the new council come in our first meeting in June or July, excuse me. And so the second thing is because we're going to be fair to all the candidates. What we're going to ask is first of all, what we're going to do is take the candidates in time frame when they declare their candidacy or where they submitted their application for candidacy. And so follow like this in this order. Tracy Ross, Kimber, Brian Sutton, Sarah Bowen, those that aren't being interviewed will go into this room. We just start the plan straight and you get to hear everybody's answers and then so we want complete. We want your answers. And so we'll ask everyone just to join this room and we'll shut the book behind you. And then we'll start with Tracy Ross. And then we'll probably have as That's good. That's Chris will come and over you, and if you want to come up, we got a list of questions, and maybe what we've done is we just start from your end and ask
One question at a time.
one question at a time and go down. And
Number one, I'm not gonna count, just take a moment, introduce yourself, Tracy, and then I'll go to the first question.
How far do you want me to introduce myself? Tracy Ross. I was born here in Roosevelt, lived here most of my life. I did move away for a short period of time and ended up back here. So I have a beautiful wife, Bonnie, and 5 kids and 4 grandkids.
Right. So city council regularly meets at 5:30 PM on the first and third Tuesdays of each month and lasts approximately 1 to 3 hours, though it depends. Or 5 hours. Will your schedule permit your regular attendance at scheduled meetings? Do you envision any problems such as work-related matters that would prevent you from attending on a regular basis?
Should be able to meet that requirement. Yes.
What is your interest in serving on the city council? Is there something you hope to accomplish?
I don't know if there's anything particular that I want to accomplish other than since moving back, I've done a lot of service. I became an EMT almost 10 years ago now. So I've been doing that for several years, or for almost 10 years now. And I just feel like it's a great opportunity to be involved more with the city and the decision making and such.
Oh, my turn, sorry. Okay, if you could make one change or improvement, is this regarding the city or personal?
I think this city,
It's regarding the city, okay. If you could make one change or improvement to the city, what would that change or improvement be?
That's a tough question. I think just making sure that, at least for myself, being as honest and looking at the facts and trying to make decisions based on not what's best for me, but what may be best for those that live here in our area. So, not to say that you're not already doing that, but
I know it's a tough question.
so, kind of going along those lines, what do you believe is the single most compelling issue facing the city of Roosevelt?
I think water, not that we have the lack of, but it sounds like from what I've learned is that we don't have the volumes that we need for fire control. I think I don't know all the details on behind why that's the case, but it sounds like there's a lot of areas that we maintain the water and just don't have that control, that availability to handle the water or the fire suppression.
So Tracy, the city council must render decisions regarding the implementation of policies and or programs that may be somewhat difficult. In your opinion, how should a city council member fulfill this responsibility on behalf of the public?
Well, like I said earlier, I think it's something that you need to study out the facts. You need to make sure you know what the issues are, and then you need to make those decisions based on those facts and what's going to be benefit those here in our area, and also the city, of course. I think a lot of times, sometimes people can get caught up in what is best for them and not what's best for the others. And it's something I've learned in owning my own business and for working for big businesses. So.
Do you participate in any professional or personal activity that could lead to or be perceived as a conflict of interest?
I do not.
Mayor, you want to take the
Yeah,
question?
I'll finish this. So in your opinion, no, this is time to start yourself. Why are you the best candidate for this position?
Well, I assume you each have my resume in front of you and probably read over it. I feel like I come with a lot of experience, such as, I've owned my own construction company. I've done excavation for a good portion of that. So I'm very familiar with development, with utilities, the sewer, the water, installing those, maintaining those. I just have a lot of experience that comes with that. And then also I've worked for, big developers. And I know, a lot of the city has to do with development, our growth and hopefully we'll continue to grow. And so my experience of coming with those, I have some background of understanding plans. I understand all of the details that have to happen with all of those things. So, and then of course, being in management positions, with owning my own business as well as working for big companies, I've learned that, you have to look at things with open eyes and be able to see, the big picture and not just be laser focused on something that may be minimal. So.
Thank you. Anything else that you'd like the council to know? Good.
I'm here to do the best I can for the city. I want to be, I look up at you guys and see the pressure that could be on you. And I know there's a lot of pressure, of making decisions and trying to do what's right for this city. And I feel like I'm capable, willing, and available to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, now, Rick, or Brooke.
Yes, sir.
Should we have him go in the room or is he okay to sit out here now?
Thanks.
Thanks. Thanks, Tracy. Appreciate it. Brian, thanks for being here with us tonight.
You're welcome.
So we have a list of questions that we'll ask you as a candidate. And first of all, introduce yourself and then we'll start with Councilman Lusenbark. So just tell us what you'd like us to know about you.
My name is Brian Southam. My wife is Arlene. We've lived in Roosevelt for 25 years. We're both from the basin. We have 7 kids, all boys except for 6 of them.
Was that the first or the last?
The last one is a boy.
Usually ends up that way.
I work for Spectra, which is a subsidiary of Strata Networks. I've been there for a couple of years and had a couple of different jobs, with the school district and with Newfield Exploration. We've enjoyed living in Roosevelt and the good people that are here, being around them.
Great, I'll start off with the first one. City Council regularly meets at 5:30 p.m. on the first and third Tuesdays of each month and lasts approximately 1 to 3 hours, but can go 5 or 6. Will your schedule permit your regular attendance at scheduled meetings, and do you envision any problems such as work-related matters that might prevent you from attending a regular meeting?
No, my work schedule right now would allow for that without any issues. Other than maybe being on call. I'm on call maybe once a month. But the meeting times are fine.
I do need to clarify though, the meetings only go that long when Don doesn't have a class.
Oh.
That's right, when I have class, we're done. They're just glad when I'm teaching.
What is your interest in serving on the city council? Is there something you hope to accomplish?
Really my biggest thing is, like I said, we've been in Roosevelt for 25 years and I just feel like it's a time in my life to kind of give back to the community. We've worked in the UBIC quite a bit and that's really the only thing we've really done to give back to the community. And this just was an opportunity to maybe give some service to the community. I'm sure it'd be a great education too, for me.
Oh, my turn, sorry. If you could make one change or improvement to the city, what would that change or improvement be? It's okay to say something that might hurt our feelings.
I haven't had anything really bug me lately about the city. So I was trying to think. I think one thing I've heard a little bit is just the turnover lately has really kind of got people stirred up. And it looks like you guys probably have that under control at this point. I mean, it looks like you've got some good candidates, the city manager and everything's hired. And so that's probably the concern that I've heard the most recently is just the turnover. So, like I said, you guys have got that under control pretty well, it looks like.
All right, so it's me now.
No, it's me. What do you believe is the single most compelling issue facing the city of Roosevelt?
I think working within a sustainable environment with the budget and the resources that we have. We put a lot of money and time into the Parks and Rec, and we just need to make sure that, that kind of everything's got a balance to it, is just kind of working within a sustainable environment.
Thank you.
City council must render decisions regarding the implementation of policies and/or programs that may be somewhat difficult. In your opinion, how should a city council member fulfill this responsibility on behalf of the public?
I would like to gather as much input from the public as possible on any kind of issues or decisions that need to be made, and then communicate with the citizens back as you gather information. Guys, as well as anybody, as you get that information, a lot of times you get information that the general public doesn't know, and so a little bit of information here and a little bit of information here, and so people's opinions form with partial information. And so I think it's important to feed that information as you accumulate everything together, is to feed that information back out to the public so they understand where you're coming from on the decision making.
Next one here. Do you participate in any professional or personal activity that could lead to or be perceived as a conflict of interest?
Just that I work for Spectra, and we have the contract with the city for the IT work. That would be the only thing I could think of that would be perceived conflict.
Okay, and in your opinion, this is an opportunity to sell yourself. In your opinion, why are you the best candidate for the position?
Brag.
Brag?
Tracy did.
Hey. I think I've got a good basis of the community with different jobs that I've held. We've lived in different homes in different areas of the community. So I have a pretty good foundation to work with. I would consider myself to be pretty level-headed and not. It takes a lot to get me too riled up. Pretty level-headed, and I think we can just take with the experience that I have within the community and kind of a calm attitude. I think I'd make a good candidate to help the city move forward.
Thank you.
Real quick, because we give Tracy the opportunity. Anything else that may come to mind that you'd like for us to know?
No. Not really. Short on words here. That's
Thanks, Brian. We appreciate you. Go ahead. This is going a lot faster than we thought.
Yeah. You may not have to make it over to Ballard after all.
So, Bo, if you want to take a minute, just introduce yourself and tell us whatever you want us to know about you.
Yeah, absolutely. Bo Hancock, lifelong resident of Roosevelt. Took off graduated from Utah State University. And then after that, I attended University of Tulsa College of Law. Graduated there in 2018, licensed attorney since 2018. So I'm sorry, Don, that you've got to deal with more attorneys. And if Josh was still here, I'd tease him because he said he practiced in Wyoming. And as far as I'm aware, I don't think Wyoming has any laws. But yeah, I just really invested in the city and really appreciate what each of you have done so far. The amenities that you're looking to improve for the citizens of the city and the other progress that's being made, I'm all for and in support of. I'm really sad to see Vince take off on us. He's a great person. His family's great. And he will be greatly missed for sure. And that kind of brings me to my purpose for being here is I now feel like my life is in a situation where I can focus and dedicate more energy to the city and as a member of the council. And I want to continue that focus of improving the amenities, going after these grants and funding opportunities, and be willing to invest money, not just in kind from like Jones and DeMille, but be willing to hire consultants and utilize experts to go after these funding opportunities, because I think we're going to have many of them in the near future. We recently went through COVID, and I don't know about each of you, but my position at Strata, we became much more busy. More people are relocating out of the city. They're able to work from home, and they're starting to see that trend is happening. And, that cities, rural areas are going to grow. And the UNA Basin Railway project, I think that's going to be a go. I've been on the stakeholder meeting every month with that group, and they've made some great progress in their environmental hurdles as well. That's me in a nutshell. I'm happy to answer any questions or just move along quickly, whatever you want to do.
You've answered some of them, but I'll go through mine, or I'll start and we'll go through. City Council regularly meets at 5:30 p.m. on the first and third Tuesdays of each month, lasts 1 to 3 hours, except when I'm here, then it's supposedly 5 to 10. Will your schedule permit your regular attendance at scheduled meetings? Do you envision any problems such as work-related matters that would prevent you from attending a regular meeting?
Yeah, no problems. And if you make them 5 to 10 hours, that makes sense. 'Cause I remember when you were a math instructor, it took a little longer, or maybe it was just me as a student. But
It felt like 10 hours when it was only 45 minutes.
Yeah. No, like I said, my life's in a good position now to be able to focus and dedicate, to the position.
What is your interest in serving on the city council? Is there something you hope to accomplish?
Just to continue what you guys have started, the focus and the drive to make Roosevelt City a better place, and for its citizens. We've been engaged with you on the walking path, as a joint venture with the hospital. That's a great project. I want to look into pursuing ways in which we can make down, Main Street Roosevelt walkable, in a place where people want to go on a Friday or Saturday evening and somewhat hang out. And I think that is something that's missing within the city. I think Vernal City is doing a good job that way, and I'd like to see Roosevelt City get there as well and pursue objectives that would support that. Absolutely.
All right, if you could make one change or improvement to the city, what change or improvement would that be?
Well, it'll probably get less lawyers involved. One area where I would like to see some focus and dedication would definitely be to the parks and recreation component. Those of you who know me, you do know that I enjoy golfing, but I also know that the ball diamonds are areas that we could utilize and see some improvements, updated watering systems and further updates to the amenities that we have there. UBIC is a great draw, and I think we can make some additional improvements to continue that as well.
Thank you.
So what do you believe is the single most compelling issue facing the city of Roosevelt?
I think water is going to be your most compelling issue. Reason for that is I was recently in a legal education seminar dealing with the Utah Water Conservancy District and the Central Water Conservancy District, and the growth that we're going to experience in the state of Utah over the next 40 years is going to be immense. And the only thing that's going to prohibit growth, and I think the shoulder communities are going to grow tremendously, and water is going to be the main component of that. And so we will need to be conscientious and ensure that not just culinary water for the citizens, but I think also the outlying areas in some respects.
Thank you.
The city council must render decisions regarding the implementation of policies and/or programs that may be somewhat difficult. In your opinion, how should a city council member fulfill this responsibility on behalf of the public?
Maintaining objectivity is key component of that. Understanding that decisions that are made will not please everybody, but the decision must be made that and the belief must be maintained that it is in the best interest of the city, regardless of what that would be. Your recent difficult decision to disengage from the newly hired city manager was one of those, and that's a difficult decision to make.
Do you participate in any professional or personal activity that could lead to or be perceived as a conflict of interest?
Not that I'm aware of. I think I can continue to serve on the Roosevelt City Housing Authority Board and do this as well.
All right, well, last question. In your opinion, why are you the best candidate for the position?
Don't hold my professional license against me, but I feel like I've got the education, the experience to be a benefit to the city and to each of you as well as sounding board and just meaningful engagement through the decision-making process.
You have had the opportunity to serve for a 6-month period before, too.
Yeah. I was appointed interim for a minute, and at that time, when the term was fulfilled, I didn't campaign. Didn't really campaign, mostly because I didn't feel like I could give the city the focus and the energy that it deserved at that time. That was a conscious decision I made.
Is there anything else that you'd like us to know?
No, keep up the good work, gentlemen. You're doing great. I have no personal vendettas or issues that I would bring to the table. I just appreciate what you guys do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, appreciate it. Thanks. Bell, how are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Good. So go ahead and take a minute and introduce yourself and anything that you think we want to know.
Well, I'm Trent Bell. I've lived in Roosevelt about almost 18 years. Originally grew up down in south central Utah, down by Richfield in a little town, up on a little farm down there. Went to Paiute High School, then went to BYU, Idaho, and then down to Weber State, and then grad school anesthesia school at Yale Hospital, New Haven, Connecticut.
Thank you.
City Council regularly meets at 5:30 PM on the first and third Tuesdays of each month and lasts approximately 1 to 3 hours. Will your schedule permit your regular attendance at scheduled meetings? Do you envision any problems such as work-related matters that would or could prevent you from attending a regular meeting?
Appreciate the question. I am an anesthesia provider at the hospital. We are required to take call. And as many of the first responders up there, I am committed to one Tuesday every 5 weeks. Now that doesn't mean that I'm committed to be at the hospital. I'm on call. So I would have a chance to get called in. That is the only one.
Your turn.
What is your interest in serving on the city council? Is there something you hope to accomplish?
You know, we go through the talking points of serving the community, and those are all important. You know, always want you put in your service to the community, but everybody I've been talking to, gentlemen, from the oil field to the construction business to the hospital to anywhere else, these big companies show that we're going to have growth in Roosevelt. And I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir there. We're going to have growth, and we need to be ready for that growth. Along with that growth comes the opportunity for us to make Roosevelt even a better place than it is, a place that we can have our kids come back if they want to come back. And in order to have that, we got to have jobs. We got to have employment. You know, and I know that you guys have already done some proactive things to make Roosevelt better, but I want to be part of that. Infrastructure, you know, making things more accessible. I really appreciate the recreation parts that we've done, but there's so much more that we can do to make it so people want to come here more. You know, you often hear people who come here, just like Mark did, they come here and they don't want to leave, but it's getting them here. And we can do so many things to get them here.
If you could make one change or improvement to Roosevelt City, what would that change or improvement be?
Sidewalks. Sidewalks. And a little bit of it comes from my background in health. I see up where I live, I see sidewalks that don't go anywhere. And I see kids getting out, going trick-or-treating. And you're always tense. You're always tense because if they were on sidewalks, there's no way that there would be somebody to hit them with a car. So I would love to see that more. And I know that there's been some activity. There's some, you know, it reminds me of a mouth of teeth, you know, who wants that big tooth out the middle? It's like an eyesore, right? It's who wants a sidewalk that ends and then begins again 2 blocks down the road. That's just one thing.
Great. What do you believe is the single most compelling issue facing the city of Roosevelt?
Infrastructure. I think that by far infrastructure, in regards mostly to the growth that's coming down, we need to be prepared for water, sewer. I mean, the gamut, you know, and I know I've heard rumors of I don't know if it's Main Street project. That's a great start. What a great place to start in the middle of the city, you know, but there's some sewer issues. There's some things that have been done wrong long ago that can be corrected for growth. But I think infrastructure would be probably the main one.
Thank you.
The city council must render decisions regarding the implementation of policies and or programs that may be somewhat difficult. In your opinion, how should a city council member fulfill this responsibility on behalf of the public?
Without bias or prejudice, 100%. Think it through, study it through, analyze it. Get your ideas from your fellow councilmen, but have no bias or agenda.
Do you participate in any professional or personal activity that could lead to or be perceived as a conflict of interest?
I don't think so. Not necessarily. I am in the development business of Roosevelt City. Most of that is a management company and turned over to Century 21 for their sales. So I don't really have a lot to do with it, that part of it.
Okay, and now your opportunity to brag on yourself a little bit. Why are you the best candidate for this position?
Well, that's a great question. I've just had a lot of experience working with people. I see 20, 30, 40 people a day at work. I have to interview them. I have to talk to them. I talk to the community. I've always been interested in politics, and I think I'm a pretty good communicator when it comes to talking to people. A little bit of a weakness is I'm a perfectionist, and I know that you can't be perfect in everything. It gets nerve-wracking, but when it comes to the people of Roosevelt, the guy that would come through for them. I have some experience in the construction field, the building field, the development field, the healthcare field, council field. Been on federal committees for the Utah Nursing Association committees. I've been delegate for the Republican Party before, and so I kind of have that experience as far as government goes.
Excellent. Thank you.
And just final opportunity, if there's anything that you feel like you want to share that you may missed.
You know, I just want to say I'm just really excited for the future. You know, there's been a lot of negativity of this last year, and especially in government, can really get you down. But I think Roosevelt can be really the shining star on the hill. You know, in the sense that I can see things coming. I mean, hypothetically, I know this is hypothetical, but if we get a rail system, we get things that bring in population, we're going to have some work to do. And I'm willing, that's why I'm doing it. I want to be part of that progress and see those things happen. And I think I have the knowledge and the foresight to be a part with you guys to make that happen. I appreciate your time. On a note, that's one of these Tuesdays. I'm going to go back on call. So I'm going to stick around, but if you see me bail out, that's why.
Thanks, Trent. Thank you. All right. Last but not least. Proud again for being patient. So, again, why don't you go ahead and tell us about yourself, anything that you think we should know as a council or you'd like us to know as a council?
Well, first of all, my name's Rowdy Cloward. I've lived here since 2007. Lived out in the city before then, going to school. I was born and raised in Price, so not much different from here, just coal instead of oil. I've always been really interested in donating my time, you know, trying to help out the community. Been involved in boys baseball for years and years. I was the president of Roosevelt Boys Baseball for 4 years. I just stepped down. I'm vice president now because I took a position with the state for boys baseball. And so I'm over all of Uinta Basin, all of Price and Emery counties. I serve on the Arts, Parks, and Rec Committee. I've done that since the beginning, which is a great committee. You know, I'm really excited about it, and I'm glad you guys were able to create that committee and get it going. I feel like we've done really good things. With the pandemic, it kind of set us back a little, but we're getting back into the swing of things now, and I think we're doing great things. And so overall, I'm just here to try and help out as much as I can.
Thank you. City Council regularly meets at 5:30 p.m. on the first and third Tuesdays of each month and lasts approximately 1 to 3 hours. Will your schedule permit your regular attendance at scheduled meetings? Do you envision any problems such as work-related matters that would prevent you from attending a regular meeting?
No, I'm pretty open as far as work is concerned. I have a pretty open schedule, so that's no problem.
What is your interest in serving on the city council? Is there something you hope to accomplish?
I don't have something I hope to accomplish to make Roosevelt, you know, a better place. I think you guys are doing that. I think the direction that we're headed in is great.
but I think I can be a benefit to making it even better. All right. If you could make one change or improvement to Roosevelt City, what would that change or improvement be? I think we need more stuff for our youth, and that's, like I said before, that's kind of what I've focused on forever. Is the more you can keep your kids active and going and having something to look forward to throughout the day, it keeps them out of trouble. And you see, like in baseball, we see the kids, we see our numbers. We have 250 to 300 kids T-ball, but by the time they get to high school, we got 13 kids putting in for high school baseball. And the same thing with all the other sports. I think that directly correlates to not having enough of these for these kids to see. So if there's anything that I think we could use help in, I think that's everywhere you go. It's making something better for our youth. Thank you.
So what do you believe is the single most compelling issue facing the city of Roosevelt?
That's a tough one. I mean, our economy is obviously the most difficult thing, I think. And I don't know if we can ever get away from that. You see the same thing in any energy area. Price is going through the same thing. They're in a really big downturn right now because of the coal. And so trying to maintain what we're trying to do as a city and going through the ups and downs of our economy, it's got to be the biggest struggle, I think.
Thank you.
The city council must render decisions regarding the implementation of policies and or programs that may be somewhat difficult. In your opinion, how should a city council member fulfill this responsibility on behalf of the public?
Well, I think you have to listen. You have to be open, and you have to know the policies. If you go into something and you have an agenda, it's going to skew your thinking on the way you should be voting on the matter, right? And so I feel like you need to go into everything with an open mind. If you do that and you can listen, you can debate, you're going to have a better chance at getting to the right, the good end, the positive end, and doing the right thing.
Okay, thank you. Do you participate in any professional or personal activity that could lead to or be perceived as a conflict of interest?
No. I like yes or no questions, by the way.
I didn't write the questions, I'm just reading them, but we're trying to keep it the same for everyone, right?
Keep it up.
Well, this one is not a yes or no question. So this is an opportunity to set us up a little bit. Why are you the best candidate for the position?
It's funny because we ask that question in interviews we do out of work also, right? And it's funny the responses you get. I don't think I can stand up here and say I'm the best person for the job. I just feel like if a person is doing this for the right reasons and they're here to make this city a better place, then they're a good position. They're a good fit for that position. I know I'm not coming in with anything. I don't have any kind of agenda. I'm not going to push for something right away. My main thing is to try and help out. And I see this as a kind of a service to try and make our city better, which I believe, like I said before, the city's getting better and better. Ever since I've moved in, I can see progress, and I want to keep that going, and I think I can help out.
Thank you, man. Just quick follow-up, is there anything that you might have thought of during the interview process that you wanted to say but didn't get a chance to?
No. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Robert. All right, well, that concludes the interview process for the candidates. Thank you for bearing with us and going through that. I can honestly say, I don't know how much I should say, but I know in years past, I hate to say it, but the decision was made before y'all came. But I can honestly say tonight is not the case. I have no idea how the council is going to vote, which is really interesting and exciting for me. Because That means we're doing it the right way. So what we're going to do is we'll give everybody a piece of paper. And just what we're going to do, unless there's a compelling reason to have a discussion on that, is what I'd like to do is have, we'll do two ways. First of all, newspapers have to be on those. And then we'll take the top two and vote one last time. That's according to state statute, state code. So go ahead and take a minute.
Top 10, we said.
Yeah, top 10.
Just one, or
Just one.
what, there's one each?
Well, maybe you do your top two.
Or if you have top 5.
Just top one, and then see if everybody chooses one. The name's not voted unless there's a tie, and so then there would be a four-way tie, and then
Just a quick comment too. This is my opinion. There's not a bad candidate here. This is a tough decision, so I appreciate everybody applying and coming here tonight. I'm really impressed. So.
When you come up the election, put your name in, because I'd love to see the citizens be able to choose from this group. It's a great group.
Yeah, I agree with what Councilman Allen said. It's going to be a tough decision. I hope everyone knows I like all of you. I just have to go for one person. So.
I had an opportunity to talk to David Bear over the weekend, and I said, situations like this are a good problem to have. When you have people that want to be involved and want to give their time. I would much rather this than have to go out and pressure somebody to do it.
I don't agree, because it's hard now, I can't.
That's the problem.
You said it was a good problem, I don't know if it's a good problem, I'm having a hard time.
Talked earlier about the things and those decisions regarding the implementations of policies and even hiring.
I know.
And it's a tough one.
I don't know who it goes to, but I made my choice.
Time. Well, I mean, unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of doing this privately. It gets to be done in the public eye.
Question. Does the camera show what we just did?
Why you guys aren't using why you're not using Dominion?
I promise I'll have to looks correct. Business. Okay, are we all ready? Someone want to help me count? One for Brian South. One for Bo Hancock. One for Tracy Ross. And one for Bo Hancock. So where does that leave us? We have a tie for second. Got a tie for second, so you need to cast them off. For either three of them.
No, is there ties between Tracy Ross and Ryan South? So you cast both one of those two.
Well, this puts me in a really uncomfortable position.
What if we just vote for vote between those two to go forward, and then we can have the vote between Bo and whoever? Does that work?
In the statute, there has to be 2 rounds. The 2 top vote getters from the first round go to the second one. So I think it needs to be JR casting a vote.
We can't take 3 then, right?
Okay.
Just checking, I'm trying to help.
So if we're round one and the other one, it requires still a second vote by state statute.
Like if it was unanimous, you mean?
No, so Bill Hancock got 2 votes, and then got 1.
Well, that's what happened, right? Well, Hancock got 2, Brian South and Tracy Ross each got 1.
Yeah.
So there's a tie vote between Tracy and Brian. So the mayor needs to cast a vote for which one of them will progress to the second.
Looking at his obvious paper. This is a very, very tough decision. But now we'll go to Brian himself. So that leaves us with Paul Hancock and Brian Sutton, and we'll do one more vote. Please don't put me in that position.
It's likely you'll be. Tell Vince thanks for leaving.
Yeah.
We have Pitt Flying down here.
I should
Go to the mayor pro tem.
You have odd numbers. Harder.
All right. Brian Sutton. Paul Hancock. Paul Hancock. And Paul Hancock. So, we'll go to the council in July, in the first meeting in July, so we'll make that, we'll sort you at that time. Once we finish his, everything this month, and then we'll get that taken care of. So congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mayor already said this, but don't let it deter you to put your name in for the actual election.
Yes, please.
Yeah. And even the one that did get, you'll be up again.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks to Candace. Everybody did.
Thank you. This is tough. It's tough to put your name on. It's tough to go through the process and this be preliminary to waiting these credits. There's some real interesting emotions that happen when you put your name on that ballot. It's exciting and it's difficult at all at the same time. So appreciate you being here and working on that through that process with us. I think we're just going to get done and take it with you. So you have to be all the time. Next week. Maybe full time. Yes. Here, but.
Looks like we got to the secondary water fee schedule approved. Ron is gonna share with us information on this.
No more PowerPoints, I promise. Death by PowerPoint.
You did a good job with the PowerPoint. It was
really good.
So basically, the staff and I, we've discussed this quite a bit. We still stand with the decision that we made to do a minimum payment. But one thing that came out of the meeting and the input that we got from the citizens is we would like to, for your consideration, have you considered giving a senior discount? We really like the idea of giving back to those who have helped to build this community. And so what we were proposing was giving a 20% discount on the connection fee, bringing it from $500 to $400 for the senior citizens, and then providing their first 6,000 gallons for no charge with that $6 fee that they pay on a monthly basis. So it wouldn't change the amount that Roosevelt is bringing in, but it would give us a little bit of relief for our senior citizens. And there's no way for me to do the analysis because I do not know how many of our connections we're talking. And of course, we would put requirements in place where we would have to have utility bills or something in their name and proof of 65 or older. And then
That was my question: is what was the cutoff for the 60? Because I know it's different. But
yeah, we
65
just kind of
is,
went with 65 and older, and as long as they could bring in, their birth certificate or the driver's license or something with their birth date on it, and other utility bills showing that they are the the homeowner at that address.
So they would get, if they're hooking up, they get the discount. If they're already currently hooked up, they would get the discount on the first.
Yeah, they'd still pay what they're paying now, but they would not be charged for the first 6,000 gallons.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
I really like that change myself. I'm in favor of helping out the older people who are on fixed incomes and work hard in this community.
Yeah, they built this community, so it's nice to give back.
Any other thoughts or comments?
I move we approve, if Rhonda approves it, besides she's wearing a cool t-shirt, her and Lee Nicole.
What would Teddy do? Come on.
What would Teddy do? I move for approval.
Second. What are we approving exactly?
The change.
Change the preliminary.
We're keeping what we already had, we're just adjusting it for the senior citizens, that's my motion, is to adjust for the senior citizens. Because we approved the budget, the water bill.
Installer fee has already been approved.
Right, we
That
approved
got
that
here before
before.
I did.
Right. Yeah, so
So-
all we're doing is approving the change for the senior citizens.
Okay, and this is preliminary, right? We still haven't had a public hearing.
Last time was,
Nothing is required as far as I understand at this point in time.
Well, I'm going to change, and if we've already approved everything, then.
yeah, all we're doing is approving the adjustment for the senior citizens, because we've already had the public hearing last time too on the water, and that's,
A big cloud.
Rhonda did a great job on, I think, helping us better understand. Was there any, we need to finish, sorry, we had a motion in a second.
Got a motion and a second to approve those changes to the secondary water fee schedule for the senior discount. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So,
And we will probably implement those beginning with the next billing cycle.
And we talked before, while you're here with the water, that we said we had 197 not using it. Are we doing anything to encourage that? Because obviously that's going to help the cost for everybody if we get those.
And I do believe that there is something going out with the next billing cycle to help people understand that, we've got to preserve and keep our culinary water usage down as much as we possibly can, because we are in a drought year. And again, people need to understand that was really a lot of the reasoning behind securing this secondary water, which really is going to turn out to be a real blessing for Roosevelt. We are one of the few areas I know of that are not saying, don't water your grass, we don't have the water. We're instead encouraging people, please use.
But we want to use the secondary first wherever we
Absolutely.
can.
We need
where
to
we
use
have.
secondary water for all outside whenever we possibly can.
I'm just wondering if we know the 197, is there a way we can even do if they're not signing up, a targeted call or?
Yes, and Ryan actually had talked about that, just letting them know, you've got this, the meter's there, you're not utilizing the service, maybe consider doing so.
That's what I would encourage.
Education.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, just some education, because I would love to see all of those people get on, because I think it helps everyone, plus, it helps those that have to use the culinary, but also helps those using the secondary, because it's a benefit to them, and it helps all the secondary users, I think, so.
I think in the future, the goal should be that as enough people hook on to make the secondary water a little bit cheaper to use than the culinary, then there's an incentive for people to use it. But it's just cost prohibitive right now because of all the infrastructure that you have to put in.
Every one of the streets that they do any work on, they are making sure that they get that secondary line in there. And, we actually have as many people who are saying, hey, I want the water. How do I get it to my area? So.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Next one is economic development consultant approval. And that's Mayor Bird is listed as the presenter.
Yes, so I attended the Economic Development Committee meeting, and I can give you a quick overview of it, or you can choose to table it for your next meeting, whatever you prefer. You do have a packet in front of you from Intermountain Economic Consulting, which is Brandon Bugle and has started this company that's specifically working with the basin, and Thomas Winterton is the local representative. We had at the last Economic Development Committee, which was actually the same day as the last council meeting, we had 3 different economic development consultants come out and meet with that committee to present to them their plans for what we can do in the basin as far as increasing our economic development. And that committee recommended forward to the council for approval that we contract with Intermountain Economic Consulting. They have a very, very detailed plan for the area that's within that booklet, and it also includes their full pricing. They are currently contracted with Duchesne County and are already putting together an economic development plan for the county that does include Roosevelt City to some degree, but this is a much more targeted plan directed at Roosevelt City. The cost for this has also been added to, sorry, microphone, has been added to the upcoming budget as well, so the cost is covered. So we do need a motion from the council at some point to proceed with this, but you don't have to move on it tonight if you don't want to. I know Mayor Bird did have some things that he wanted to say, so that's in a nutshell.
I think it would be good if the mayor could show, so I would move that we table it till the 18th. Is that, when's the next meeting? The 15th, sorry.
Any other comments, thoughts? Yes, motion the second to table the economic development consultant approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We, as part of this fee, do we get, does the council get a chance to go to the Skinwalker Ranch and? Sorry.
Invite the economic development committee to visit whenever they want. So.
You're good.
Did you sign the non-disclosure? I'll make you do that.
Dang lawyers again, huh?
So Mayor has Carol on the next one, the roads and infrastructure engineering contract approval, to put it after. But is Ryan Claiborne?
He's supposed to be here. He was over in Patrick City. He texted me. He should be walking in the door.
Maybe I'll just leave it in the order it's supposed to be because Grant is here. You're listed as.
We're actually here waiting for Eric Majors to get back from Johnson to mail to.
So those two, we need to wait for a little bit.
It's here.
Oh, hey, good timing. You're up. Walk right up.
Okay, so really?
Yeah, really.
We've been waiting. Somebody text or tell him to get here.
You need him here as well for yours?
Well, he wanted me to let him know. So.
Oh, okay.
Okay, wow, that was amazing.
Well, we're
timing.
at the 40-year water plan approval.
Okay, going from gun range to water, what could be better, huh? So the 40-year plan, that's, do you have that, Rhonda? Okay. What this is if you can just kind of picture a sliver of the master plan, this is kind of an update. The state requires us to update this. And so in a nutshell, the 40-year plan is, the purpose is to provide an estimation on the water situation for Roosevelt to make sure we have enough water 40 years out. And that's in our water rights to make sure that we can supply the demand that we have here in town. You want to just go to the back, just keep going. Okay, right there. And I don't expect you to read everything. I'm just going to point out some bulleted points to you. I don't want to bore you too much, but right now the city currently uses 3,700 gallons per minute. And in note, the numbers I throw out is in peak demand. Yeah, so it's going to be in July, August, and that's when water is going, and it's only culinary water we're talking about. We're not talking about secondary. So right now, currently, we're at 3,700 gallons a minute is what we use in the peak, and I've seen that bump up to 4 actually here recently. Just depends on if we got a project going or anything like that. And with the Hayden wells, probably the 4th or 5th paragraph down, Roosevelt City currently relies on water from the Hayden well field, the Durgan wells, and Victory. and them are all active right now. So combined, that's almost 7,500 gallons a minute. Now, the inactive are the Campbell wells and the Cove well. We do have water rights there, but they're not active. I can activate them if we need to. But right now, they're kind of just sitting out there for storage.
Is there much work for activating them?
The Cove well, I still turn on and do maintenance on it to make sure it's ready.
So there's not a lot of work on it, is what you're saying.
Yeah, on the Cove one, but the Campbell wells, they'll need some rehab. But the water's there and the water right is good. And with those, it's an extra 3,000 gallons a minute. So anyway, with limitations with flow and restrictions there, Horrocks figured we're around 8,500 gallons a minute that we can produce. If you want to go to page, the next page, Rhonda. We already discussed that. Other areas where we sell water to, part of this survey has to consider everything. So we do sell water to Neola and Cedar View, and then we just got a connection with Ballard Water as well. To keep in mind, so when we go in later, some of those numbers actually calculate what they have, because we're also supplying them. So we can't count them as a one connection like Cedar View. We got to count them as 83. That way we got enough water for them. The population, they went off census. I'm on page 3 now, Rhonda, at the bottom. We're going to do the rate on growth. They've got it 1.88% annually. So we're going to kind of go by that. Just keep that in the back of your mind. Next page, Rhonda, there's a chart. So Roosevelt growth, they expect in 2060 to get up to almost 15,000 in population. Duchesne County's almost or a little over 32,000. The next graph kind of just shows it a little easier, but it's crazy to think that we'll be at those numbers, but that's 40 years from now, so it probably can be. It's going to be weird to see it, but
Is that 1.8% growth per year?
yeah.
What's GOPB?
I knew you were going to ask that, Booze.
I wonder if that's based on what the state, because you had on the previous, it said 1.1%, where we project 1.88. So I wonder if maybe that's their.
I was going to look into it, and then I found a line here that said GOPB doesn't fully represent what is likely expected over the next 40 years. So I kind of just set that to the side and was focusing on everything else, but I can look into that. And
My guess is it's based on previous growth, but the 1.88, because the state's growing so much more, they had to forecast that a little. That's just my guess, though.
Yeah, and the 188 was off the 3-year increment there.
Thought it was 10 from 2010 to 2000.
Oh wait, yeah, 3 years off something.
Yeah,
off from
I bet GOPB is off of what the state projected as 1.1, but they anticipated with their previous numbers, and it doesn't matter, but 1.88 would get you a higher growth rate, obviously quite a bit over that time.
Yeah,
and again, it's all projected. It could go up or down. You don't know till you get there, right? These are just projections.
Yeah, and if you go back, Rhonda, one going off the GOPB, it just
Stands for the government.
It's only 95.
Planning and budget.
Yeah.
So Utah.
And on the previous one, it did say 1.1% was there, right? What they put? I read that, so that's what I'm betting it's off of, which would make sense. So.
And I see us getting more than 3,000 by then. So, at the bottom of page 5 is some of the recent projects we've had in the last several years. And there's more I can add to this, the smaller projects, but these were the big ones. We had Highway 40 water line that went down Main Street. the main line coming from Hayden. I don't know if you remember that. That was a pretty big project. And also the 200 North. We can add in there now the 2 million tank. That definitely helps with this plan, because even though we have the water rights, to be able to pump it and store it adds time and longevity as far as the system goes. And so that's going to be a good project. And then also in the forecast, we have that other tank that we're going to address. So that's the main projects we have. And every year we're working on the old lines in town. And whenever we do that, we upgrade the size to what it needs to be. And it's usually quite a bit more.
Do we have any of our water go out to the front at all? Ours all stays here in the basin?
Ours does, yes.
Because there are, I know if you go up to, up the dam there, Stillwater, doesn't some of that go out to like Spanish Fork or something? But
yeah, feeds
our
those
water
two.
stays here in the basement.
Yeah.
That's
The water rights that the city owns for now. That's why I got
That's the only thing concerns me is that if the state came in, because, you know, they have grids out there and they need water too. So I don't want, we shouldn't have any issues, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I don't know if I want to, I don't know if Grant can answer that or not, but I feel pretty safe. But
We shouldn't have any issues, but water law evolves as
That's what I
the
wondered.
shortage increases. So
not to bore you too much, the demand calculations, I kind of wish Horrocks would have went to 2020, but they went to 2018 on this. But peak per day, we did reach over 4 million in that day. And now this is probably a good time to bring it up. As far as secondary water goes, that peak demand we can pull down. So the more secondary we get in the system, the more that can go down, and which is good. And it'll actually help the long range forecast. As far as the 40 years, we can probably stretch it to 50 or 60 years with what we currently have.
We just brought that up earlier with Rhonda, and she said you guys are looking at a targeted, maybe those that aren't utilizing secondary but have it available to encourage them and to use it and see what we can do to get them going.
Yeah, and we're currently working on a phase 3, seeing if there's funding out there right now to get a phase 3 in, to get the low hanging fruit right now. So go to page 7. This part here is kind of the ERC valuation, equivalent residential connection. They're kind of trying to convert non-residential connections to ERCs. The total water use by non-residential connections. God, it's confusing how these engineers are. Is there one right here?
There's one right there.
Aren't you trying to get, when they talk about ERC, are they trying to get it to where, okay, for example, the golf course, how many connections would that be in place of, instead of putting 1,000 acre feet on the golf course, how many connections would that be?
Yes, they're trying to equate the golf course to houses just to make it. It's the state, not engineers. Well, it's the engineers at the state.
I think I can draw up a cartoon that would make a lot more sense than that. But right now, it's in 2018, the peak usage, and I don't know if you can picture your own home, but almost a half a gallon a minute is what we use on average, residential, so single dwelling. But that's a continuous flow. That's just not the usage for the month, but kind of interesting.
That's during high usage.
Yeah. Yep. Everything I talks. Let's see. Go to the next one. And this is those connections they're talking about right here, the RC. So on the end, you can see the numbers a lot bigger, but you just got to visualize that it's a single dwelling. So anytime we have a fourplex or anything like that, they actually made it 4 connections instead of 1. And so at the bottom, we're looking at 10,000 connections, which is quite a bit. I can't imagine that, but I'm glad I won't be here during that time. The next couple pages are just definitions. You know, it just kind of explains what a peak daily flow is, projected number of water connections. Kind of go down to the bottom of the golf course. There's a line item there that's Booze would think this is pretty cool. Go down just a little more. Got some math there for you, Booze. Is it all right to call you Booze on?
I'm good with that. I don't care. I don't hold a lot of titles.
Am I the only one?
I know every once in a while someone says that too. Most these two I didn't teach, so they don't know me.
Basically, in a nutshell, the golf course, 130 acres, they use 6.78 gallons per minute per acre. It's a lot of water there. And that's why it was so important to put that on secondary and use non-treated water. So that was a huge, when we put that on, that was huge for the city. And I'd like to thank Bo's dad for getting that water, helping getting that water. Because just the golf course, the parks, and the big open areas save the culinary system. Right now, we would be running 3 extra wells to make up for that. So,
Yeah, I got a quick question. I'm not related, but when the golf course switched over to secondary, was there any bad effects from doing that, like weed seeds in the water and stuff, or did it still just do just fine? Was it anything that's even noticeable?
I don't think it's noticeable, really. I mean, if you still treat your lawns like you would, as far as fertilizing, they still spray for dandelions. They still, even though it may seem like there's a lot of weeds up there right now, but
No, it's usually okay.
yeah.
I was just curious because
So you said this is mostly culinary, or this is both culinary?
This is all culinary. This 40-year plan.
So we're including the golf course on this plan, even though we don't.
No, this is assuming that we had no secondary and we had to use just the water rights we have, that
Okay.
water source.
Okay. But we don't have to, so.
No. If you can go on to page 12. I hope I don't have to talk as long as so Eric gets here.
It's okay, you don't have to keep talking until I get there. When you're done, you can be done.
Believe me, I will be. This is another, I don't know where they got their numbers on this. This is water purchase for energy industry. This is like the fracking and stuff like that. They considered it would be either 899 ERCs or 333 non-residential connections. They did call me and ask for the numbers as far as fracking goes, so they went off based of last year on this. So last year we sold enough water to, kind of scary, but we sold enough water to supply over 300 homes just to frack. But
It was not mostly not culinary, secondary.
it was both.
We had some,
Yeah.
and that's fine. I mean, if we have left over that we can, we might as well.
Yeah, it was a little both. So go down. This is probably the important part for you guys to know. There won't be a test on this, I promise. Keep going down, Rhonda, sorry. There's this chart right here. This is all the water rights that the city has. And if you go down one more. So all the yellow is the Hayden water rights. In total, Roosevelt City owns 31 rights. So all the yellow's Hayden, the green is the Campbell Wells, the Cove Well is the pink, and then Durgan's blue. I think there was more. No. Yeah, Durgan's were all on the last page, so there's 4 water rights there, but not a whole lot of water there. So All in all, Hayden is our biggest producer as far as water rights go.
Have you looked into the cost for the Campbell well, what it would cost to get that up to speed? It just, like, do we have analysis for future reference?
So the Campbell wells is everybody, you probably don't know where they're at located. You know where Bob West used to live out there? Just to the west of him is the Campbell wells.
Okay.
2 or 3 of them are artesian wells. They leak out. But far as cost goes, we would just have to pull and put new pump and upgrade the building to culinary standards. We do have a water line already out there. It used to feed the 1 million tank on Page Bench.
So what you're saying is it's not gonna be expensive for us, if there came a need to get that hooked up?
Probably depending per well, I can see it being, I don't know, a quarter, maybe 200,000 per well. So I don't know if that's cheap or not to you, but
Okay. Well, that's what I was-
that's a rough guess. Just depends on how much we need to do.
But we have the rights, we have the somewhat infrastructure that we can finish up and
Yeah.
Fix it up if we needed to add that.
How many wells? How many different wells?
In Campbell or yeah?
Yeah.
There I think is 4 or 5.
But you could do all one at a time.
Yeah.
Be all.
Yeah, and the thought did come up is we had an oil field company hit us up on rebuilding every one of them so they can pump out of them. And we actually almost had them to do that, but they sold out. So
But if you did that, then you could work a deal with them and that deal, maybe.
yeah.
Now, while back, we also had, was it Cedar View that came down and wanted to, because we wanted to hook up to they wanted to get some CIB money to, was it Cedar? I don't remember for sure. And has that gone forward, do you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they almost have the water line installed.
And our water line's almost installed or theirs?
Well, remember we paid for the upgrade.
Right.
Did you guys push that through? They're laying that pipe right now.
Okay.
Yep.
But that's still off of which?
It would be Hayden.
Hayden.
So drop down just a little bit to where there's a chart. Right there's our Hayden field. If you look at the top 5 wells, that's what we produce gallons per minute. They kind of, I don't know. It's pretty bad when I'm telling them it's far-fetched because I exaggerate a little bit too. But that's what they produce right now. Well 3 obviously is our biggest producer. It's almost 2,000 gallons a minute, which is incredible. So getting that tank up there, I can feed the whole town just with one well. Pretty easy. But that's the flows that we get from our water source. Last page, all in all, this is basically what are we going to look at the end of 2060. Obviously, we're in the red by just 363 gallons per minute. That's pretty tight, but this is considering peak demand and only culinary. This isn't count secondary. So if we had secondary into that, I think we'd be in pretty good shape. Yep.
And this is without the 2 million tank.
Yeah, but that doesn't
affect any.
No.
And this does include the Campbell and the Cove wells, right?
Yeah.
Which we don't have on, but the Cove's easy. The Campbell would take a little bit of money to get up to speed, but that's something we can look at down the road as a need, right? But
yeah, correct.
But like I said, with the secondary, we should be okay.
Yeah.
I have to say, I agree with your comment earlier. I think the councils and mayors and managers that before us did a great job of putting us in a good situation, and I just thank them for doing that because, as I think Ron said earlier, we're better water here than we are in other parts of the state. So I appreciate that. Obviously, we want to be still conservative be, wise with the water. We don't want to just use it just because we can, but at the same token, we don't have to go out saying don't water either, that we can tell people to just be mindful and do that. So, but I have to say, I really appreciate the people ahead because I came into this, not knowing, and to see the things in place where we're at, we're in a really good situation, I think. So,
Yeah. So how many acre feet would be needed, or how many water rights or acre feet would be needed to bring that up to zero? Just curious, like how much is required for the treatment?
Oh, that's very minimal.
Super small.
I mean, I can do the math, but not in my head, but
Okay, that's not.
it's very minimal. Yeah. I mean, that's just one small well that we have to punch.
yeah.
But
Okay. Cool. Yeah, because some of the wells were producing what, 5-6 times that.
yeah. In Victory, I mean, I can always keep on tabs too on far as water available and if we want to purchase it and stuff. There's always some that come up. It's a little harder now, but there's always something.
Does Victory send any water out anywhere, or is it mostly stay out in this area?
It's all everywhere. This east side, East Duchesne, all the way to us.
Cool.
So, anyway, that's our 40-year plan in a nutshell. So,
Is there anything we have to do as a council with respect to that, or you just have to make us aware?
It says approval.
I think you have to at least approve it so I can put it in the master plan.
Any other thoughts or comments?
Because I got to send it back to the state too when you get it done. So.
We have a motion.
A motion to approve amending the master plan with our new 40-year plan update.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Are we ready now?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, we'll turn it to, infrastructure engineering contract approval. Perhaps we present.
And we have a proposed contract to hit on the highlights. It's a 3-year term. The expense for the city is based on an exhibit within the contract. I don't know if you guys have it there in front of you, but it varies depending on who's doing the work.
Right.
And there's a full page with the breakdown. There are automatic renewal provisions. There were 2 points that needed to be touched on. I'm glad that Michael was able to make it. Is the oh, you're fine. In fact, you were perfect timing.
Yeah.
Well, that's good then.
The first is in the contract, there are provisions for special projects, and anything which exceeds whatever the amount you guys determine for a special project would still get an RFQ. Anything below that amount would automatically go to Jones and DeMille during the term of the contract. The thing that I wanted to point out to you guys, and that I think we need input from Michael on, is it says $1.5 million in there right now. That is based on nothing except a guess from me. When I talked to Eric, he seemed to think it was not the worst guess he'd ever heard. Or threshold that could be there. But I know that when I had talked to JR earlier, he was questioning that a little bit, thinking maybe we needed to back it off a little bit. But I think what you need to get input from Michael on, and what you need to base your decision on for that figure, is just how many projects would exceed the $1.5 million that's in there right now. And I'm indifferent on the number. I'm not pushing for you to raise or lower it. I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware that I just grabbed that.
We're making you work hard, Grant.
Well, I mean, to give you an idea of that size of contract, that even at the state level, UDOT level, the typical like design engineering fees on a project that big, UDOT wouldn't even have to go out to an RFP for that. So, and that's, they're pretty sticklers on on that sort of thing. Now, sometimes they do, and maybe what I would recommend is maybe there's some flexibility in build into that. Maybe it's just at your discretion. Maybe you want to go out, maybe a project that's less than that, you still want to go out to an RFP, and you know, I guess that could be something you could consider and leave it up. Give yourselves maybe a little more flexibility into the contract, into that amount. But 1.5 in with today's construction prices, that's not a big project. So,
For chip seal and sidewalks and stuff like that, you know, is that, what is this specifically targeting this contract?
This is roads and infrastructure.
Okay, so basically.
it could be, it's, yeah,
Yeah.
the way it's written.
Tell me how much of a mile does $1.5 million do of a road?
Well, depends on what you're doing with that road, right? So, to give you an idea, you know, and your city streets are much wider than this, so this is actually going to be much. We're just bidding a project right now, and this is going to give you a bigger figure than what you could actually do. But you know, if you're doing a chip seal, $1.5 million, that's a pretty good sized project. You know, if you're doing an overlay or something, you can eat up $1.5 million pretty quick in asphalt prices. So, you know, a chip seal, for a typical, you know, highway out, maybe out through the county, you're probably 35,000 a mile for a chip seal. In the city, they're going to bid it probably a little higher than that because you're going to be a little tighter. You know, they're wider, but well, yeah, that's just based on a typical highway. But they're wider. But you're also dealing with city traffic and other traffic control issues that you maybe out in the county you don't have to deal with. But so it just depends. You know, if you're going to do something major to a road, full depth reclamation or something, I mean, it could be, you can eat up a lot of money real quick. So.
This contract specifically targeting projects we don't want to go through the whole process of doing an RFQ, which, I mean, where do we draw the line?
Yeah, then that's what the question is just where do you want to draw the line? Is anything below whatever that figure?
How does it work if, like, we do what Mike says and we leave that flexible? Is that possible?
I could put language like that in the contract, but it would make it a little bit of a cumbersome process, because then with each project, it would have to be coming back to you guys and looking at them to decide whether you wanted it to go to Jones Mill or do an RFQ.
And for small projects, maybe you don't want to go through that process every time, but
And that's kind of what led us down
this road in the first place, is wanting to have an engineering firm basically on retainer so that you don't have to continually do that for each project.
Really what we're doing is setting a number that anything below that
automatically goes to the contract.
Above
that would then still would do an RFQ.
I think the way the contract is worded right now, at least, is anything under that, you just don't have to worry about it. It's covered. Anything over that, you can elect to go to an RFP. You can designate that a special project. So I don't know if that means that you can also designate it not a special project and maybe give yourselves that flexibility. That might mean that, but that's, I think, the way it was worded the last time I.
That is the way that it's worded, but is it practical now the way that would be advised to do? And it's anything that's over the threshold, you at least look at.
And Johnson Mill would still be eligible for any of those projects that they wanted, but we would still do an RFQ. That would be my advice.
Anybody have a better idea what that number should be?
What, Mike, do you remember figures for the Stone Gate? I was thinking it was like 3.
Yeah, that was a much bigger project than 1.5. Yeah, that was a big effort, and I'm
just trying to give you some scope on what we're looking at here for what $1.5 million would do. I'm
pretty sure that the Stonegate would have ended up being twice that.
Yeah, it was at least twice that.
Two something, or close to three maybe, but it was.
And that was
Total project cost.
connect to the houses, put in asphalt and sidewalk or curb and gutter.
I don't remember if it
It included all of that.
Curb gutter.
No sidewalks.
Curb, gutter, pavement, storm drain, sewer. It was a big project.
So this would be right.
That's a special project for sure. Yeah.
What you're saying, that's probably
that size would be kind of the threshold for this project if we leave the number as it is. And another thing that I thought about as going over this is with building supplies and everything being so expensive right now. I know that's spilling over into the projects these guys are doing too, and it's a fairly significant percentage from what I was looking at earlier. And so that's another thing to be considering right now is that we're looking at higher costs than we were for these other projects. And so looking at Stonegate today versus when we get it then, it would
Be quite a bit more today. Yeah.
I had a question for Ryan, since you were kind of interim city manager. Do you have any thoughts on this from your perspective?
I think having this contract is more, it'll help us gauge on where to go. Because right now, I'm just kind of lost. What engineer can go out, we can go here or there, we sit down with RFQ for every project. It makes it difficult because these engineers have to pay for the RFQs, right? Yeah.
Yes.
They're not cheap. And after a while, if you don't select them, they stop putting in. And I don't blame them because they kind of feel like they're up against it. And so I think if we have something more set and you have a threshold in there to where, hey, we're putting in a 2 million gallon tank or whatever, it's 2.5 million, then we can open it up because it's a bigger project. We might need someone to, not saying it's just one. If it's something that's a hair more out of their realm or whatever, then we've got options.
And did you have an opinion on the 1.5?
I'm the same way. I almost want to throw out there in the wind. I just.
Okay. I was just curious.
It really doesn't get you very far.
That's what I'm wondering, if maybe we need to up it to 2, just based on numbers, and I don't know.
I would feel safe with 1.5 just because it just keeps everything more, a little bit more accountable and we'll be answering to people. I feel more comfortable doing 1.5, but maybe my reasoning isn't great. I don't know.
regretting saying that it was just a gift.
I'm okay with that. I'm my only concern is, with costs and things going up, I just don't want to make this cumbersome either, because the point of this is to make it easier for the city to get stuff done a little quicker with Jones and the Mill. And that I'm not trying to second guess anyone. I don't know the number either. I'm just trying to make sure we get a number that's fair, but and that we can do what we need to do. But at the same token, we also want to leave it open for special projects. You know what I'm saying, for others, so that people have a fair opportunity to.
Did you already
to
say
bid.
what was the term of this contract before we have to revisit? 3.
Automatically renew unless there's notice.
And I would mention too that like 1.5 million, for example, you're going to reconstruct a road, that might get you a mile, maybe a little more than that. That's all. I mean, so and that's a 30 foot wide road, not dealing with curb and gutter, not dealing with sidewalk, not.
Sorry, Ryan had a comment, I think.
I just wanted to remind you that this is for roads and infrastructure, so it's usually the biggest projects that we have. And it's not for general engineering or as parks and rec or anything like that, so we're going somewhere else for that, or that door's wide open. But this particular contract is just for roads and infrastructure, which is the bulk of the projects. I mean, that's your most expensive.
Well, maybe a better question would be then,
how many of the projects could we anticipate them working on that would be under the 1.5 million? Would we keep them busy doing all those things?
Some of that I think is going to depend on Johnson now too, because part of what's anticipated that we do here for funding sources too. So do you have any idea on that, Mike? I don't know, but from the
You know, we've been doing a little bit for you already, and we've got bandwidth. So I don't foresee an issue where we're gonna not be able to meet your needs unless there's some extraordinary type issue that comes up. You know, to David's point too, sorry, Councilman Baird, sorry.
No, I feel you either way.
You know, we don't want this contract has an out clause, right? So if you feel like you're not getting the value you want, there's no obligation to us. You can cancel the contract. So it's not like you're stuck with us for 3 years no matter what. And I use that term, you know, kind of loosely there, but we don't want you to feel that way anyway. So it's not written into the contract. It's not something that we're going to receive that month. We didn't do a monthly stipend or a monthly payment that comes in regardless of what we do for you. We did an hourly rate for that reason, but we want you to feel good about what you're getting, and also that out clause, I call it an out clause, keeps us accountable. So
yeah, which is very short too. It's only 7 days.
Yeah. You can be out.
Do something. Expenses that had that stage in the project. So,
Kirby's not here, is he?
He was out front when I walked in.
So I would be interested to know what the city's number would be, like if it came from like Ryan, city manager. I don't know, but you're kind of as close as we get. So what would your number be, and then what would your number be, and see kind of what range we're working in here?
I got a number in my head, but I want to hear his number first.
I'll see where I
Yeah, his number.
Yeah. I don't know but I do think that 1.5 is a little lower. I really think 2 would be fair. That way they're incentivized to get $2 million projects and things like that. But at the same time, for another engineer coming in cold, so let's say he doesn't even found a road with 1.7 Naples has a $1.7 million project. The new engineer would come in and have to repeat all that work. So there's an actual word cost level to redo that. And I was looking at redoing the work for Naples, and yeah, they already have most of the project done. It didn't benefit us or the city to redo it. So yeah, so I think 1.5 is fair, but also I would go higher. And like I said, does benefit the end. He goes on to a 3-year, 2-year, 5-year.
Well, thanks for the first part.
Ryan?
Same number as what I have in mind. Just because if it gets above that, I almost feel like it's appropriate to have or you can reach out for someone if they're available. If not, then like you said, Jones would have every put into. So.
I was going to say 5. No, just kidding. Just kidding. No, 2 million. Like I said, the 1.5. It sounds like a lot. I know it sounds like a lot, but it really is not that big of an infrastructure project these days. And so 2 million. That gives us a little more flexibility where you're not having to go out to RFQ, on some of those projects.
That was the number I was thinking, and I appreciate Grant being honest, and he just pulled the number out as best he could. And I think he did really well with the number, but I also think with just the current climate and different things, I'd rather give our city a chance to do what they need to and have the advantage of Jones to Mill than not, where we're having to send things out, because the point of this was to to help them be able to get stuff done quicker, you know, and not have to go through us all the time, or, you know what I'm saying? So, which I think is the purpose, right, is so that we have that ability.
And so this is just to do preliminary engineering, or is this to take on a whole
This could do
project?
the whole project as long as it's within that amount. Now, I think it was based on the preliminary estimates, because obviously before a project's bid, we don't know exactly what the bid's gonna be. We can give you
Okay.
our best guess, but that's, you know.
Well, I'm with everyone here. I mean, if Ryan says 200 and he's saying 200 and he's saying that's fair, and I understand the cost of prices and materials, engineering, everything's going to go up here soon. So I think 200 is
2 million, not 200 million.
2 million. That's what I meant.
Just clarifying that.
And maybe one other thing you consider is, you could consider is each year as inflation, you know, based on the construction cost index, maybe there's a small increase to that number just to keep it current.
Mhm.
We're only talking 3 years, maybe a potential of another 3 if it, you know,
Right.
if it renews.
Well, I like the fact that we have an option out clause, which I think is important. Not that I'm expecting to use it, but I think that's important for the citizens. If, you know, someone feels like we're not getting the value, and I appreciate Jones and DeMille being, you know, willing to work with us on that. And, but I would support the 2 million as our cutoff, and anything above would be special. And just like you said, Jones and DeMille could still bid those just like any other thing.
All right.
So I guess we got a number now.
Okay, so I'll, subject to you guys doing a motion here at the end, and if not, change that to $2 million. And the other point of discussion leading up to today's meeting was on the hourly rate schedule. And since JR is not here, unless Ryan, so I'll just kind of stand in and say what has been said. It's not binding you guys to anything. It's just pointing out what I think JR wanted to be discussed tonight. And that's that on the fee schedule, it's, as I said before, it's hourly rates in an appendix, and it's broken down, or yeah, it's broken down by who is doing the work.
By wage category.
Right.
Yeah. From the city's vantage point, we think that there is a benefit to Jones and DeMille knowing that all that work is going to be funneled through the firm. Here's JR's back. But so the request from the city, and what we think would be fair, is if there was an across-the-board discount because of the contract. When I had talked to Eric, and correct me if we're wrong on this, but my understanding is that those were standard hourly rates. So because of the contract and the amount of work that we see would be funneled through us, we're curious if Jones and DeMille would be willing to do just kind of an across-the-board discount. And we could easily keep the same exhibit attached with the hourly rates, and then just add another provision that says that there would be whatever the figure is on those invoices.
So Eric and I talked about this just before this meeting started. I think we could definitely entertain that and go look and see what we could do there. I think that hourly rate schedule, what we would propose to do is we discount our hourly rates because of the contract. We recognize there's a value there, and we appreciate that too. So we discount those hourly rates, and there's 2 modes of payment in the contract. One was the hourly rate, and one is the per project fee schedule. And when you can clearly define a scope and set a fee for that, we would propose you go that route. That keeps us honest, so we don't just bill you for hours and hours and hours when something should take a smaller amount of time. Usually get it in a quicker time, and it's better for both sides in that way. But then that hourly rate schedule was for any of those miscellaneous things that you come in and there's not really a set project, but we're doing a funding app or we're doing this. Totally fine. I think we could definitely entertain a discounted rate there. So.
Do we need to evaluate that first, or are we good to?
I don't know what the number.
Can I throw out a number? Maybe, if they were discounted by 5% or something like that. Our profit margins, believe it or not, in professional services, when you see that, you think, wow, that's a big number, hourly rate. But that's actually, our profit margins aren't that big in a civil engineering firm. They're, we're talking 15% maybe. So if 5%'s a fairly big discount on our end, but if that's okay with you guys, we could do that now.
Okay, was there anything else, Grant? That you,
No, other than since he's back, we bring Jeff up to speed. We have had a discussion about the special project. Consensus seems to be that the 1.5 million is actually a little bit low, not high. And so the proposal at this point, without there having been a motion yet, is to increase that to 2 million. But so then to answer your question, Don, going forward, if the council is comfortable with the 5%, I think those are the only two things that I thought really needed to be discussed in more depth tonight. If you wanted to make a motion to approve the contract with the adjustment to the special project figure and to incorporate the hourly rate discount, then I think we'd be ready to approve it tonight. I would make the amendments and then would circulate for signature later.
Who's in charge here now?
So what is the final? Yeah, there it is. What is the final? Was it 2 million of the final project?
That's what's been talked about right now, and we moved on to talk about a possible discount.
And I'm sorry, I'm coming in a little late. I don't want this thing to go longer than it needs to, but I'm looking at the 2 million gallon tank and what we're 2.3 million on that one. 1.4, yeah. So, I mean, that's a large project.
Mike had given some figures on roads. Chip and seal was at like 35,000.
Yeah. So kind of get you up to speed, Mayor. Like on a $1.5 million project, that's actually not a bad number that Grant came up with. He says he guessed, but I don't know. Yeah, but it's not a bad number. But even at that number, I gave an example that UDOT, they have multiple mechanisms, for example, to go select for professional services. And the bigger the project, maybe the different mechanisms are used. At that level, your typical design fees, even they could potentially go out just a direct select for somebody. They're not even go out to an RFQ. And that's they don't have a contract with anybody. So, I mean, that's the kind of level at 1.5 million. If you're out of the city doing a road project, might get you a mile, maybe a little bit more. If you're doing a reconstruct project, chip and seal, it'll get you quite a bit more than that, obviously. But you're still, out in a rural road, 35,000 a mile for a chip seal. You get inside the more urban areas, everything gets more expensive. And with construction costs the way they are, that's the way the discussion went. I guess 2 million. Ryan had brought up the 2 million, potentially $2 million figure. I feel like that's a good number, but we'll do whatever.
I'm comfortable with that too. I just if it's above that number, whatever number we decide on, if it's above that, then we go out.
right.
And we can cancel the contract with 7 days notice. So if there's a project.
That's the other thing you can do.
And another thing that I feel also is we wouldn't have selected Joe for the mill if we didn't think that was the best option at the time to do those types of projects. And so, personally, I'm comfortable with the 2 million. I just, Mike, want you to know that we're really, part of the reason for this is to go out and get grant money, and so that if you go out and get a $2 million project, it's yours already, and that will incentivize you to go out and find those monies and pull those grants down for us and help us with that. We have good staff and good people, but you guys have eyes and ears, and you're seeing things that we may not see, and you're looking at opportunities that we might not look at, and so that's the benefit we see in this relationship, other than the good services that you provide and the good quality work that you provide, but those opportunities that we may miss and that would be an incentive for you to get because you get that project. So that was the whole idea behind this whole relationship. And so if that's working out, I think, I have no problem with that.
I appreciate that, Mayor. And operating a civil engineering firm in rural Utah, we're always looking for funding. 'Cause all the cities and towns are facing the same issues, so we always have our ear to the ground, and we'll definitely do that. So,
Any other comments? So 2 million and then 5% discount on the rates.
I move we approve the contract with the 2 amendments to the contract with the 2 million limit and the 5% discount.
I'll second it. Second by Councilman Bear, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we tabled that one until next time because you weren't here. Yeah, I didn't have this document ahead of time, so I think it'd be good if we had time to review it. And if we have time, let's just do it next time.
Yep. We can do that, we won't even discuss it. Just so that, the Executive Development Committee, we went and developing for our development, economic development in the city. And this is who they recommended to the council, so, I will let them know that it'll be a couple of weeks before before this decision is ratified, but yeah. That's no problem at all.
And I would add that we do want to be supportive of the Economic Committee. We just would like time to review it and have you have an opportunity to share your thoughts. And since we tabled it, we felt it'd be more fair to wait.
And I didn't realize that you guys haven't received anything on that yet. That's part of my bad, so I think that's wise. So we're reaching purchase orders.
Yeah, and I want to thank Rhonda. As always, she's a rock star. I like the sticky notes and the explanations, and I did ask on one, and appreciate her being able to share. It's nice to see those and understand what they're about. So anyway, I move we approve unless someone has any thoughts.
I'll second. Okay, that's second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. I don't see running here. So we'll rush over the report from the city manager, but we do have standing committees. Councilman Allen, do you have anything for us tonight?
Not really. We met and talked about going forward on ball fields, and we're gonna meet again and hopefully have something started right after the Red Bud Run.
Excellent.
Parks and Rec, Parks Arts and Rec meeting Thursday, I think this Thursday.
Thursday.
No, is it Thursday? They changed the meeting because people weren't able to come on Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday's that day.
I think it's Thursday.
It is Thursday. They have moved that meeting to Thursdays.
Well, that's okay with them because that's state bishop review.
Yeah, I'll be out of town, unfortunately, so I won't be able to go, but I just wanted to make sure somebody, can you go, Cody?
I will.
You'll be out of
driving into Cedar City.
Okay. It's the Arts Park Rec Group, the standing committee. They're meeting Thursday at 7.
Do we have any staff that can be there?
Yeah, we got Brent and Dustin.
Okay.
We could have somebody from the council, if possible. You said you can't make it.
I'm out of town.
I have a conflict.
Cody has a conflict. Dave has a conflict. Can you go, Dustin, Thursday? 7 o'clock?
They're still doing it on Zoom.
Just here. No, it's not Zoom. It's just here. I just thought I'd mention. I'll go to the Arts or the Parks and Rec meeting Monday morning or Tuesday morning next week.
Monday morning.
Monday morning. I think is it next week or the week after? I think it's next week. Anyway, I'll go to that one with
14.
oh, 2 weeks. Yeah, I think you're right. 14th. So I'll go to that one, but
Do you have anything else? No. Okay. Anything else?
no.
Councilman Mayor, do you have anything for us tonight? And Councilman White? I just got back from Ballard's meeting. Met with the mayor and 3 other councilmen. They're in favor of the project. They had their planning and zoning. There were some concerns with safety in the planning and zoning, but we also reassured them that they would be able to NRA specs. It would have to be More so that would be dictated by the state and others that are that have those ties to that money. And so the only concern that they threw out other than the safety was, which again I think is mitigated through how we did that, but is the road getting there? And I knew that might be something that they threw out. Can you tell me a little history on that road, Ryan? You've been here long enough. Were you here when that sewer line got put in down there and the road built to the sewer lagoons?
I wasn't here, but I've just heard. I don't know if they were sick enough to have it accurate.
And apparently the line's shallow in areas, the road's narrow. Roosevelt City, I think, built the road, is what they say.
It was an older road, but when we put the sewer line down there, we actually improved it.
So we improved it. Anyway, it's narrow in areas, the line's shallow in areas. I told them, for us, financially, to be able to tackle a project like that is impossible and will kill the gun range project. We have to do something unless there's a way that we can roll that road in to the project. And so we're going to look at that as far as looking at rolling that cost of the project into the cheaper route was 500 and some thousand, 503,000. The more expensive route, the fast route was 733,000, which is well more than half the cost of the project itself. So it's very far fetched to think that we can get funding that way, and I mentioned that to them. But we told them that we would go to the DWR and we would look at those that were held in the ground funding and see if it's something that we can roll into that for safety purposes on that road.
Were they opposed? There's another road that comes in there from the north. Were they opposed to that route?
They mentioned that, and I told them maybe you'll have to just close that road to traffic and force people to go around. And obviously that here's the difficult thing, and I'll say it in a public meeting and if they're watching, it is what it is. But they have the decision whether or not to allow a conditional use permit for the gun range. And it seemed like to me that they're treading a very fine line because they want the road to be improved, they don't want to kill the project. But so it's a very delicate situation in the sense that if we just said, well, we'll use the other road, then maybe they would say, well, we're not going to give you a conditional use. I can see that type of thing possibly happening. So the approach that I took over there is we'll see what we can do. And even if we can improve it a little bit to where it's safe, we may not be able to raise the height they need to have the cover over our line that may be needed for big truck and heavy traffic, but at least for the public, we can get it to a point where it's safe and it's travelable without any problems. So we're trying to navigate that, but ultimately we'll have to have those answers in a couple of weeks before we submit our application for the grant, and then we'll have a public hearing a month from now on whether or not they're going to actually give us a conditional use. So we'll have to have some of those answers, and we may or may not get it. Ultimately, if it kills the project, because Rhonda knows we don't have the money to do something like that. So that's kind of where we're at. But that's all I have as far as an update. And we skipped over you, Ryan, just because you're out of the room at the time. Do you have anything for us?
The only thing I can mention, unless Rhonda wants to, I just wanted to throw out, she's been working hard on this budget, so when she sends it out to you, what is it, waiting for?
Yeah, I'll have it to you hopefully by the end of this week, and then we'll be publishing it next week. And it will come with stickings. I actually, and I'm putting that all through there just to answer the questions that I think you might have.
If we could just encourage the council to read through that, answer their own questions, talk to staff beforehand. What we really want to do is we don't want to we don't want the public to think that we're just coming here making decisions quickly, but also we want the public to understand that we want to have an efficient meeting, and so we help educate the public that all that information is available to them as well a week prior to the meeting, and as well as the council. And so the anticipation would be that the public and the council go and ask all the questions that they need to ask concerning those issues, so that when they come to council, we can spend more time making those decisions versus catching everybody on those. But anyway, I think that's basically why you're putting the sticky notes in there.
We've made some changes. I mean, as I'm going through this, we gave you the preliminary when we did that, what was that, a month and a half ago? And we haven't deviated that far from that, but there are a lot of things we've changed from one area to another, just to account for them properly.
One other thing that I wanted to mention that has to do with the budget is the airport, because that was a part of the decision that the council made to approve the contract for the airport for $73,000, I believe, and that was approved, but it was approved for next year's budget. However, Rhonda found in this year's budget 60. Well, it'll be
less than 60, somewhere 56 to 57,000.
Yeah, so in the budget currently for the airport, so we can utilize whatever remainder we have in the budget, and you would have seen it on the purchase orders. There's also $7,000 for that. I just wanted to mention that in the public meeting because we are changing, or we are taking funds from this year to apply to that item versus next year's budget. So I thought it was fair just to mention that to the public. Anyway, so I wanted to make sure that the council needs to purchase orders that way. So that's the final speaking through. Okay, we already did the purchase orders. Anything else, Ryan?
That's all I had.
Okay. If nothing else, we can consider a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay. Second, all in favor? Aye. Adjourn.